All right, Jim, you're the host, and we're live.
Okay, I'll just start webinar. Thank you. Well, welcome. I am very excited today. Life's Co-Pilot loves to bring great information to you so that we can get information to our seniors and their families and things that you may or may not know exist. So today we have a really good panel on a topic that I'm real excited about sharing. These are your, I would say, I don't know if you guys will disagree with me or not, but non-traditional medical things. It's not your typical doctor's office where it's just the same old, same old, same old. These guys are providing services in the medical industry that maybe you guys don't know exist. Maybe you don't know that these are opportunities that are out there and what these things can do for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and start this thing off and introduce my panel and let you guys kind of tell us who you are, what you do, what your services are, and we'll get going from there. So let's start the top of my sheet here. Farah Myers, would you tell us about who you are, what your company is, and tell me all about what you guys do?
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I am a family nurse practitioner, and I own a direct primary care clinic called Cool Creek Family Health, and we're based in Carmel in the Arts District. What we do is we basically kind of strip insurance and middlemen and overhead out of the exam room, and we provide your primary care 80 to 90% of your healthcare needs for a low monthly membership fee. So I try to include just about everything I can in that membership fee. If it is something that I can do within my four walls, which means text you, email you, voicemail, video visit, or even testing like EKGs or in-house testing, I included in your membership fee. If there are things like certain labs or specialty labs that we need to draw, we'll draw them in-house, and there's a price point for it. So we try, the best way I can describe it is I've taken two of my favorite things, Costco and Netflix, and we've combined them into a medical model. So with the membership fee, they get access to deeply discounted rates, prices, as far as labs and imaging, things like that. And then, with the subscription model, it just kind of limits that thinking twice before you have to access your healthcare provider. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell. And man, it is an amazing way to practice medicine, that's for sure.
Excellent. How long have you had your practice there?
We opened in May of 2020, so we're coming up on 2 years.
Awesome. Oh, you picked an interesting time to do it. So
it is interesting. We opened right in the middle of COVID, but the thing is that never slowed us down because the direct primary care model, because of the easy access to telemedicine and how that's all just so built into the model, it really pointed out the flaws of what everybody was suffering for when COVID happened, that it was, I can't get in with anybody. Why can't we do a telemedicine appointment? Why are the schedules so strict? That kind of thing. And so it really pushed a lot of my patients from my old practice before I started came over to me because they were just like, good Lord, it's just so hard to get in with anybody. So despite the multitude of providers they have, they just don't have the access. And so we grew despite COVID, and I was able to provide a lot of individualized COVID resources for them as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
So next on my little sheet here that I have, is Samuel Cree with Dispatch Health. And by the way, full disclosure, I've used you guys many times for my mom. It's a great resource. So go ahead and tell us who you guys are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. As Jim mentioned, I'm with a company called Dispatch Health. We are in 43 markets throughout the country, including Indianapolis. I'm the market operations manager for the Indianapolis market of Dispatch Health. Our mission is we provide trusted, compassionate care to all in the comfort of home. So if you remember back in the day, there used to be house calls, physicians that made house calls. Well, so many of those groups don't make those anymore. And we've kind of incorporated what we deem as the 21st century house call. So we provide in-home acute care services in the comfort of your home. We provide all ages from 3 months to grave. And for the purposes of this call, we provide so many services. I hear it over and over to the senior population, and we're able to keep them at home or in their setting of care and provide really early intervention that can a lot of times prevent them from going into the hospital, going to the ER, or possibly an admission stay. So we're able to keep costs down in the overall ecosystem of healthcare, which we're very proud of. And then we're also able to have some really great wins and allow older individuals the opportunity to age in place and function at their highest level of independence and autonomy. So very proud of what we're able to do. Still raising a lot of awareness in Indianapolis and some of our newer markets. And our best referrals are from people that have utilized the service already. And so I won't share any, but you can go on and check out some of our Google reviews. We really are transforming healthcare. So happy to answer any questions.
And you're not really, you got a full age services that you cover, right? So
correct.
One of our, we have one of our entities is we have a real estate company, and one of our agents was sick and she had a baby in home, and she was like, didn't really want to drag her baby out into a clinic and deal with all that. So she had you guys out to help her with that.
Yeah, I have a 1-year-old, and we've utilized the services personally. And a lot of the recurring theme of feedback I get is, I have 3 kids, and I didn't want to load them up and make them try and wrangle them in an urgent care waiting room. And so it's definitely nicer to just request care, and then the wait time that you would experience at an urgent care, you're in your home and you're able to mow the lawn or cook the meal while you're waiting. So yeah, we're very proud of kind of the different healthcare, and I know that was the focal point of today's meeting, was about kind of non-traditional levels of care. So I think we fit squarely in that arena, and yeah, just excited to see more growth. We've been growing like crazy. We launched in Indianapolis in October of 2020 as well. So a lot of COVID and non-COVID related. But for the sake of this call, I will say our average age of patient is like 67. So we do see a high number of senior adults and older adults.
Well, one of the questions I was going to have for you real quickly is I wanted to find out, would you kind of consider yourself like a med check kind of place, or would it be I'm just trying to figure out if that makes sense, or is that not what we're talking about?
We pride ourselves on being like maybe slightly higher level than your traditional urgent care. We do bill as an urgent care, but we do offer about 60 to 70% of what you'd find in a traditional ER setting, including but not limited to 12 lead EKG. We're able to we work with mobile X-ray and also ultrasound, so we're able to rule out DVTs if our providers suspect that. And the companies that we work with for mobile imaging, we're able to get them out either same day if it's earlier in the day, or at worst next day. So we are still able to get that decision-making tool for the providers very early. And another thing we pride ourselves on is the clinical collaboration. So we're not trying to be primary care. We circle everything back to the primary care office. So before any visit starts, we always have that primary care provider, assuming they have one. We always include that in the chart, and then we're able to circle the visit summary, any orders we put in, any new prescriptions that we started. We're able to circle those back. And when I say new prescriptions, it's for an acute episode in nature. It's not meant to be a 30-day supply or an ongoing medication for a chronic condition. So
that's what I was seeking. I was trying to get to the fact that you guys are not the primary care. You're that level. So
correct.
Thank you. We'll come back to you here shortly. I'm just going to do this because I want people to be aware that this exists. Teresa Patterson was supposed to be with us today, and she just texted me right before this started that she had something come up and could not be here, but she's the general director for Geneseret Free Clinic. And if you're not aware, if people who watch this are not aware, there are free medical clinics here in town, and I just wanted to let them be put forth here. Cole, Oak Street Health. Where's Cole? There you are. So introduce yourself and tell me about Oak Street. I was just talking to somebody about you guys today. So
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Jim. I am the Regional Outreach Director for Indiana and Kentucky for Oak Street Health. We have 4 clinics in the Indianapolis area, three clinics in Northwest and up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and a couple clinics moving into Louisville. So we are a national primary care doctor's office for adults on Medicare. We're currently not completely national in every state, but we are growing, like crazy every single day. Trying to, our mission statement is to rebuild healthcare as it should be on the primary care setting, specifically for adults on Medicare. Obviously, Medicare Part B. And the way that we do this is, obviously with our most vulnerable population of seniors needing primary care and having healthcare needs, we believe that, we need to, there's so many gaps that exist within, healthcare and compliance and making sure people get the best health outcomes, understand what they're getting, understand their benefits and such. So we've really, our model has bridged the gaps that currently exist. And what I mean by that is, number one, transportation to and from every appointment. If you live within a 15-mile radius of Oak Street Health, so many seniors rely on, son, daughter, grandson, granddaughter, niece, nephew to take them to the doctor, or don't have the means to get to the doctor themselves. So we provide complimentary transportation in our green vans. If you guys have not seen them, I promise now that I've mentioned it, you'll see them driving around Indianapolis, because before I didn't see them. And as soon as I found out about it, I saw them everywhere. So we provide transportation. We believe in spending the extra time. So we believe in our saying is we believe in well care, not sick care. So we are a true preventative health model that believes in seeing people based on their conditions, based on their diagnoses and their status on a tier system based on how how healthy they are and how they're what kind of care they need. We will spend 20 to 40 minutes. That's provider time with you at every appointment. So where the national average is much lower than that, we believe in quality time for the most vulnerable, population of seniors. We believe that you need that care. We believe that, a lot of seniors when they age into Medicare do not have access or an understanding of, the full understanding of their Medicare benefits. I've been working in Medicare, particularly with Medicare Part B on an outpatient respiratory DME level for the past 10 years. And I don't understand everything. So imagine aging in at 65 and getting a book this thick in the mail and saying, here's Medicare, figure it out. We provide assistance with what we call our patient relations manager to make sure that every senior we see is getting all the benefits that they qualify for and deserve and understand their plan completely. Again, with more time with, the physician, we get a chance to build relationships. The doctors do not take notes. We have scribes, medical students who are going to school that take the notes so that the doctor can get on eye level with the patients and assess what's going on. So they're not, worried about getting their clinical documentation, which is a huge part of healthcare nowadays. So just a different type of approach to healthcare that tries to address, and give the best overall healthcare to seniors on a primary care setting that we can possibly give.
Excellent. Well, I've been very impressed with your models. They just getting away from that average 6 minutes that or 8 minutes or whatever it is that the doctors as a general rule give. So Dr. Leslie Hodges, I am Scripts and Beyond. You've been on several of my panels. I love your model. So tell us who you are and what you guys do.
Well, thank you, Jim, for this opportunity. Good evening to everyone, I should say. Yes, I am the owner and founder of Scripts and Beyond. It's medication review and consulting. I am a pharmacist and have been for 17 years. I've worked in the retail setting and often saw the gaps in care between patients leaving the doctor's office and being compliant and going home and understanding their medications. And
Oops.
so in 2015, I launched Scripts and Beyond to marry the two, my clinical and pharmacy background, along with the passion to care and help people really understand their medication. So not just the patients themselves, but caregivers, even their support system, whatever that looks like. We go through the medications and make sure that one, that they are appropriate, two, that we help identify any potential drug interactions that may be overlooked or not caught, especially if there are numerous healthcare providers that are caring for that patient. We also help them identify goals for themselves. Oftentimes, people have the goals of their healthcare provider, but they haven't made any health goals for themselves. And so we help them with that and create a plan for them to accomplish that. And last but certainly not least, create a plan to help lower some of the medication costs. We all know medications are very expensive. Yes, there are a lot of programs and assistance, but if you don't know, you don't know. And so really arming people with that knowledge and understanding, advocating for them as well. And then if there's anything that we see that could be potentially causing harm, maybe some duplicate medications, identifying those, and even arming the patient or caregiver with the information to communicate with their healthcare provider or doing it on their behalf. And so all in all, our motto is a pharmacist focused on you, because if you know about pharmacy, it can be very hectic at times. And oftentimes people don't have questions initially. The questions come when they go home. The questions come when they begin to share with their family members that they've been put on a new medication or they're continuing a medication. And then the questions begin to arise. And so we're there to help bridge that gap instead of waiting till that follow-up appointment, which usually can be sometimes 3 or 6 months later, to really answer those questions and get some understanding to the patients and their families.
Outstanding. Well, I'll tell you, like you and I have talked about this before, the need for someone to oversee people's meds and what their prescriptions are is in, and I would imagine everybody would agree with this. What I have seen, especially within the senior world, they may have 8 different specialists they're going to for 8 different things, and then 4 of them prescribe the same thing, and all of a sudden they're taking way overdoses of items and things like that, unless someone is writing herd on all that.
Absolutely. You see it so often, and that happens to be usually that point of contact when people make contact with us. Okay, this isn't making sense. These look like the same, or maybe they're using different names, being the brand or generic name, and creating that confusion as well. And so definitely help. We're there to help bridge that as well.
Yeah, if you have 2 doctors prescribe the 2 different things that are also that conflict with each other, but they go to different pharmacies, then all of a sudden you get all kinds of messes at home. So I'm sure that everyone here has run into that at different times. So, but I'm thrilled to have someone that can fix that for people. Stacy Willis, Visiting Physicians Associates. Let's introduce you and tell me about who you are and what your company does.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for the invitation. Visiting Physicians Association is a piece of U.S. medical management. We provide primary care physicians to the patient in their homes, be that a house, apartment, assisted living facility. We go to them. We are able to provide EKG, lab, X-ray coverage if needed. We can also have on-call follow-up with them if needed. We have 24/7 on-call available. Our physicians rotate call every 3rd weekend for our state. So we are in 13 different states right now with 32 offices. Some states, of course, have a lot more than we do. We also cover a 60-mile diameter service area. So we go all the way up to above Muncie, out to Lafayette, down past Bloomington and Columbus, and east. I don't even try to measure anymore because there's so many different zip codes out there. We've been in service. Our one doc's been there 5 years. I don't know for sure how long the office has been there. I became the practice manager in November, so it's been quite a rush. But the direct contact with the patients and their families is rewarding. And if they're sick, they can call and we can get them a sick visit. If they're post-hospital, we go out and see them. We always look at med reconciliation with each visit because that does happen with different doctors ordering the same things or not knowing about the others. We work closely with the pharmacies that the patients choose. We are not associated with any specific hospital system. It's wherever the patients want to go, and we'll follow up with them at home. We usually try to do a visit about every 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the risk values of the patient. If they're higher risk, we'll see them every 2 to 4 weeks if needed. Also, we keep rotation of an annual wellness visit for each patient. Thank goodness they're not all at the same time. But it's enjoyable. I've been with the company 3 years and actually met you, Dr. Hodge, 3 years ago as a nurse navigator. So it's something that I really love out of 32 years as a registered nurse, being able to serve these people that can't get out of their homes. Or if they can, they just choose to have primary care in the home. So we see a wide variety of people and a wide variety of needs. I will still, if a patient is in need, refer them to local services if needed. So it's enjoyable. It is.
Excellent. Laura Snyder, so you are with In-House Primary Care, right? So let me have you introduce yourself and your company and all your services. It sounds like you're similar to what Stacy's doing, but fill us in. Hello?
There we go. All right.
There you go.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation also. I am a family nurse practitioner. Of about 25 years. About in 2007, I opened my practice, In-House Primary Care. We are also a house call practice, primarily serving homebound, elderly, and disabled people that have significant access issues to get to their primary care provider, their previous primary care provider, or essentially a traditional practice. They just can't get there anymore. We are a group of nurse practitioners. I've got 5 nurse practitioners working for me. We see patients across the state, about the middle of the state, from Crawfordsville to Richmond, as far south as Columbus and Greensburg, up to Hartford City, over to Tipton area. Similar to VPA, we see our patients on a regular basis. It's important, we feel, we see them about every 4 to 6 weeks to prevent exacerbations. And we feel like we do a really good job of keeping them out of the hospital. Essentially, we have a rehospitalization rate of less than 5%, closer to 4%. So we have a lot of patients that once we take them on, they just don't go to the hospital. We have used Dispatch Health actually quite a few times, and they've helped us keep the patients out of the hospital. Or sometimes, when they do need to go, they sometimes are that last push to get the patient out the door, unfortunately. But we receive our patients from home health, from hospitals, from rehab facilities. Usually they're those patients that are just missed. They decline enough, they quit going to their doctor, they continue to decline, end up in the hospital or rehab, and then they get home, and the home health nurses find out they really can't even get to the doctor anymore. They're previous to write their prescriptions. So we manage everything from heart disease, strokes. Obviously we're not a specialty, so people that can continue with their specialists for cardiology, neurology, pulmonology, we like them to go, but sometimes they get to the point where they can't even leave for that. So that's us. We're a small practice, so we're local, and we like what we do. It's a hard job. It's probably the hardest job I've ever done, but it's very enjoyable.
Well, I am really excited. And by the way, I'm going to give you guys Leslie might be wondering why I'm spending so much time on each one. I've not done it that way before. I've started breaking these hour-long videos into little 3 and 5 minute segments that we use to promote. And so this is making it a lot easier for me later. But anyway, so I'm just kind of, I'm cheating. But anyway, so, and I was sitting here going, man, this is going to work so great. But anyway, so, but what I wanted to kind of touch base with on this is, how Life's Copilot came about is my own frustration dealing with all the senior stuff, dealing with my in-laws, my parents, my family, my uncle, and all the myriad of challenges it is trying to find resources. We were lucky enough to find an in-home physician, and that was a godsend for my dad because it was getting him out was incredibly difficult, so I empathize with these services, but they're not easy to find. So how do people find you guys? And I'll let whoever wants to jump up and talk, just grab just start speaking up. But how do they find you? Because you guys are not what people think of as a general rule. You're not the traditional, doc in a box or the traditional doctor that they've been going to forever in a clinic. So even with you guys at Oak Street, you're a clinic, but you're not what people would think of. So tell me how people find you and how do you get your messaging out other than something like tonight?
I'll go ahead and start. Obviously oakstreethealth.com would be a great place to start. We just redid our website, so a little promo there. It looks really nice. I just actually visited it. But the team that I represent, the outreach executives and the community outreach team, we're constantly out in the communities that we serve, doing things, hosting events. If you've never stopped by an Oak Street Health clinic, we constantly have things going on in the community room. A lot more in becoming a lot more now that COVID is, the restrictions have kind of let up a little bit. I know it's still very much alive, but we're just constantly in the community, constantly doing things to give back to the community, hosting events, partnering with other community partners to host events. So I would say, if you've never experienced Oak Street Health, I would check out oakstreethealth.com first and foremost. Secondly, if you have the means and the ability to come into the center and see what's going on in our community room and visit a clinic, they're all very clean, state-of-the-art facilities, and we would love to have you by. We do send out mailers. We're having a couple events in May called Meet Me at Oak Street, the 12th and the 26th. That's the second and fourth Thursday of the month, where we're going to have food, a party, a DJ, line dancing, games out in the parking lot, fun stuff like that for seniors to do. Because I understand there's people who need in-home care, and I think that that's wonderful. But the folks that can get out or make it out their front door to get into a van, we believe so much in not only just physical health but mental health and becoming part of the community. And it's been so tough, with COVID and being secluded and into your house or into a room or whatever situation you may have, that come and check us out. We love to make sure that folks have a place to come and have fun and get back to that sense of community that was so important and is so important to Oak Street Health today.
Well, I get that, but I was going to say one thing is I'd never heard of you guys until I got into the senior industry and then bumped into you. Okay, so my point is people aren't going to Google Oak Street Health if they don't know that there's an Oak Street Health that does what Oak Street Health does, right? So, and that you guys are all kind of in that basket. It's like, how do we get that information out to people? Dispatch, I see you guys are on Facebook a lot. FAR, you're doing a brilliant job on LinkedIn. So you're doing some things like that. But I wouldn't have known to go in and Google, is there a pharmacist that comes to my house? Okay, so so how do we get them? That's what I'm trying to do. So pharmacist that comes to my house, tell me, what do you guys? How do you get people? How do you get in front of people that they know to Google for you?
Absolutely. Great question. To piggyback off Cole, obviously the internet, but it really is platforms like this, collaborations with like-minded providers. That whole collaborative care piece is really key. One thing that has worked for me is when there are opportunities to speak on different health conditions that are affecting members of the community, I am sought after to speak on that. And that introduces me, allows me to be introduced to potential clients and as a resource for those attendees as well. And I always tell people, even if you can't use the services that you learn about, still, keep it in the back of your mind and share it. You never know whether it's another family member, a church member, a neighbor. Everything is not for everyone, but someone does need it. But that's what's worked for me, is really just being available and getting on platforms like this. Like Stacy said, we met a few years ago. Now I've learned about 4 more services that are available, that even if my patient can't directly use it, I can still inform them about it, and maybe they can share it with someone who is close to them and they can utilize it as well. So that's what's worked for me.
I will tell you, I hear this a lot, is like with our Life Copilot panels, how often the panelists go, "Oh, I didn't know about you." So they end up changing information so I can start referring stuff after the meetings, so. But
I can piggyback on that if you
Yeah,
don't mind, Jim, for
please.
interrupting. So one of the things, I mean, obviously with healthcare providers, it's word of mouth. It is telling your best referral source are the patients that you serve. And so, I flat out tell my friends, they're like, "Oh, thank you. Today, I literally pulled out a little half pearl press-on earring out of a 3-year-old's nose today." And, mom was super happy and she loves it. So you'll see a social media post about that later, because it's just showing, it's highlighting the services that we do, so I have my little hashtag of DPC for the win. But those are different things that, showcasing your wins, showcasing client testimonials. Somebody talked about Google reviews, boosting that. I have like 60 Google reviews, but I have to ask. No one just does that. And so that's one of the things to really get the word out, is to ask your clients for the best they're the best referral source, because they already love you. So that would be kind of one, and then sharing kind of your successes as a provider and what you do. And then the other thing I will piggyback onto that is like meeting people through these kind of channels, as well as I went and I actually, with direct primary care, because I take like 60 minutes with each of my patients, I do a lot of mental health. So I went out and I blasted all of the therapists all around me. And I said, if you have someone that needs a mental health med in a primary care realm, call me and let me know and send them to me, because I can do 2 things. I'll spend a lot of time with them, and then I will also collaborate with you as a therapist, which that never happens, right? So, and then, I know physical therapists and all of that. So I've gone out and like specifically gone to these allied health offices, chiropractors, all of these people, and said, this is what I provide for, the services I provide. And if you meet a client that likes that, so mutual referrals is definitely key and a good way to get your business out, because that's ultimately where they're coming from. Nobody knows to look at certain things. And so but if they're referred by someone they trust, a friend or another provider, then it's, that's your best referral source.
Well, I will tell you, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I agree. When I started this, I thought it would be easy, because it seems like it makes sense to do house calls. I started this because, like you, my husband and I, our 3 remaining parents passed in about 4 years, a 4-year period. And we kept them at home until the last day, only because I was involved. Meaning I took them home from the hospital on the day they died, when, they wanted to leave and the hospital says no. And you're like, yeah, we can go. And the same with, you just don't, you call your doctor and heart rate of 160 and they say, well, you have to come in. So it was an eye opener for me, but it's still frustrating when I can say to somebody, we're going to come out and see you at home. And our goal is to keep you home. We're not here. A lot of older folks will think we're here to check and see if you can stay home safely and put you in a nursing home. So when we say, hey, our goal is keeping you at home, and that for them to say, I didn't know they did house calls anymore, it is very frustrating. I've been doing it for almost 15 years. Most of my referrals come from hospitals, nursing home, rehab facilities. Home health agencies are probably 80% of my referrals. But these patients are lost. And if you had some magic to get up there and say, hey, we do house calls, and if you can't get out anymore, most of these they're disconnected. They're not on the internet. Our 80-year-olds, they might have a flip phone, they might have a smartphone, but they only use it to text and call. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't use the portals. It's mostly their kids. If we're found on the internet. It's from their kids doing a search. So it's difficult. It's difficult. I don't
Well,
have
that's,
an answer.
that's why we
Most of
built,
ours is also word of mouth.
that's why we built Life's Copilot, was because what I realized as that person who was dealing with my in-laws, my parents, my uncle and stuff, is that it was me that was making these decisions and the searches and stuff like that. But we were constantly making bad choices because we didn't know better choices existed, or we didn't even know that this particular service existed until later. Like, if I'd have known what hospice really was, would have been a huge blessing for my family. But I didn't, I thought it was what everybody else thought it was. Okay, I thought it was a morphine drip the last couple of days. I didn't know, my dad would have benefited tremendously for the last 2 years. Okay, so those kind of things are what gave me the bug to create these platforms. Okay, so we can try to get that information out so people don't have regret, I guess, is where it comes down to. Here's resources, here's the people. You've been doing this a long time, 15 years. I was reading a TV article, or a video of you and what you were doing. So that's kind of how we started reaching out here.
Oh,
So
thank you. Yeah.
so you kind of created it at that time, more or less, in your world.
Yeah, I was, kind of lucky. I actually didn't really know what I was doing. I was teaching with IU, and there was a house call practice down in Louisville. And then I started noticing my patients in my practice. I had a guy come in shorts with a wound on his leg during an ice storm. And I'm like, wait, or a woman who isn't sleeping all night because her husband has dementia and she won't let me take care of her blood pressure because she needs to take care of him. And and we're like, well, why are you even leaving your house? So it's very rewarding. I feel like I've been successful if I help somebody die at home and they haven't been to the hospital. If we can keep them well, if we can take care of their exacerbations, use all the resources we have to keep them at home and get the family to accept hospice towards the end and successfully die at home, I feel like we've done our mission. But it's I don't have an answer for you as how to get it out. I wish you could. I know when we started and we would go to discharge planners, these were nurses I worked with when I was working in the hospital, and I said, hey, we've doing this great thing, we can see them at home. And there's this, well, we can't, you're not part of our network, you don't belong to this hospital system. The doctor's going to get mad if we refer that patient to you. And I'm like, well, no, they don't see that patient anymore, and they don't really care because this is their high cost, high need patient, and they're only getting Medicare money. So that's not really, so it's it's evolved, it's much better. People don't worry about some of those boundaries anymore, especially from home health. But it's most of the facilities are completely aware of us. It's those patients that living out in their home and just struggling to make it. My husband's a farmer, and our office is actually out in a farmhouse near McCordsville, out east of McCordsville. And so I like to do a lot of rural care. I don't mind doing the drive. And it's, it's very disconcerting because a lot of those rural people will stay home no matter what. They will people in the city, like whatever, they want to stay home too, but for some reason they get into facilities more often. The people out there, living between Hartford City and Muncie, and they're rural. I got 98-year-olds that are still living at home alone in a house with 10 cats.
Well,
So-
of course, this is why we're putting these together, is to get this information out so that we can broadcast that these resources are out there for people. And I see, maybe I'm wrong, but as I'm listening to you guys, I see where you guys can fill in for each other through the different processes as well, where there's some resources that can overlap, so I think that's
Definitely.
phenomenal. But, one of the things too that, and again, I speak from my own personal experiences. I always get on here and talk about things that I've experienced myself and how you guys can fix them. We just had a situation because of COVID, when it was so difficult to get to a doctor or whatever, get into a place. There was all this teledoc stuff going on, with like my mom, and she's a Parkinson's patient, and so all of a sudden she got to where we thought we were going to have to take her to a more skilled living situation than where she was at, because she was starting to have like massive grand mal seizures and falling down, and like 4 times a day she was falling down. And so obviously it wasn't working in that assisted living. She was knocking down, and she's not a big person. She's like 4 foot something. Okay. And so she was taking down these caregivers with her when she would have these events. And we finally got in to see that Parkinson's movement specialist. There's only like 1 or 2 in the state. So we got her in for our 6 minutes, and got absolutely nothing out of it. And we have a nurse advocate that we have hired that helps, keeps me sane, because she oversees both my uncle and my mom. Okay. So she just gives me a rundown of what's going on medically. But she read through the review of what the doctor put in, and the doctor said that my mom was on the heaviest dosage of Parkinson meds she had ever seen in her career, which that might have been a clue. Okay. But she said, but she's not having any problems, so I'm not going to do anything. We're going, no, wait a minute. We had to bring her into an ambulance because we didn't trust putting her out, because she'd fall down trying to walk out the door, and know that she is not all right. She is not doing good. So our nurse advocate started helping us get off the meds, and now she's fine. She's doing doing well once we got her weaned. But most people don't have these resources. I'm very blessed now, because doing this all the time, I have this huge Rolodex of really, really smart people. Okay. But most people do not, and so that's what we're trying to do, is get you guys in front of people so that they can realize. I mean, Leslie, I learned years ago, my grandmother she was really going downhill fast. We ended up taking her from one doctor to another doctor, and this young doctor wanted to get her off all the drugs she was on. So she had to go through a detox. I mean, she really went through some detoxing process. But afterwards, she was perfectly fine, got rid of her cane. She was all fine. Now, this tells you a lot about my grandmother, which I loved dearly. She went back to the old doctor just to see him, okay, after she was fine. And when he comes into the room, she looked at him and he looked kind of shocked. And she goes, "You thought I was dead, didn't you?" And he just kind of stared at her. She flipped him the bird and walked out. I loved that. So, but not everyone gets to do that, but that's what I'm trying to get people in front of you guys so that we can get there. So what kind of things would you guys like to make sure we're trying to get to an audience? What kind of things would you like them to hear about what you do, what your area is, and what we can do? So I don't care who jumps in.
You get to stay home.
Yeah.
I'm in a rural area also. And I have done hospice in the past, home health, all kinds of things. But the biggest thing is being able to stay home. You don't have to drive an hour to the city to be able to see a doctor. You don't have to go every 4 weeks and have your blood tested to see if your blood's thin enough. We work with a lot of home health, hospice facilities also. And the relationships that you build there helps carry over. When I call people or they call me and ask about services, I talk to them about us being in a relationship and being a partner in having a happy life, being able to stay home, do what you want to do. When the time comes, if need be, we educate more about what their needs are. We have them evaluated as needed, but you get to stay home. And for my parents, my mom passed 8 years ago, and she could have been home for 6 weeks prior to passing, except she was in an acute setting and it was rescue. And that's their job. In the hospital, that is their job. But sometimes it's difficult to get people to recognize when things have changed. I've had conversations with patients concerning what do they want? Do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you want to have CPR? I'm very proactive with that. And it's a lot of times things that people are afraid of that I really believe with compassion and caring you can really make a bigger difference in someone's life other than going to see a visit or something. And I really think that everyone in this group is here because they're compassionate about what they do.
Cole, let me ask you a question. Do you at Oak Street, I know you come and pick people up and bring them. Do you have like handicap accessible vans at all, or is it, or do we need to bring in somebody else that can go there at that point?
No, great question. All of our vans are handicap accessible with a handicap ramp that folds out. So yeah, we're completely able to do that and make sure that, and there's plenty of room there. They're nice and spacious. They're brand new vans. Yeah, they're just wonderful. Totally handicap accessible.
Well, I was gonna say that makes a big difference. I know if I was gonna send my mom someplace, you know, it's much easier to do it with that than it is without. That's why we was just, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's cool too because our drivers, you know, especially in the Indianapolis offices, our transportation people, they build relationships with these people as well. Like all of our patients know their drivers. They you know, make them feel special. They'll let them on the van, roll out the red carpet for them, and it's just really unique. And that's, you know, another thing that Oak Street Health prides itself on is making it more of a family like home atmosphere. Obviously for patients that can make it into the clinic. Obviously the at-home stuff is, you know, amazing. And I know my grandpa would have preferred that as well, especially because he I wouldn't say bedridden, but he was not able to make it out of the house so easy. But for the patients that we see, absolutely handicap accessible vans. If you're able to walk out of your house, or if you can drive, or you have, you know, in the winter, sometimes it's awful cold to start your car and have to get out there and scrape the ice. Even for those patients, we can provide a nice warm vehicle for them to get in, handicap accessible for sure, Jen.
Let me ask you, and Samuel, you guys, you know, you come to them for like the emergent care, for the, you know, all the different things that go along with that. And this is a question for every one of you because you all have, you know, you're doing this. If I want to get in to see you, is it 6 weeks? Is it 3 months before I can get in the door? I mean, I'm going to call a doctor to get in. You know, my God, half the time you're weeks out before you go see somebody, especially a specialist. You know, trying to get my mom to that for that 6 minutes of that Parkinson's specialist. I think it was a 5-month, you know, process from the time we tried to make the appointment to when we got in. So tell me what happens if I need to get in to see you guys, or need to get you to see me.
Well, in our case, I'm sorry.
You go ahead, Laura.
In our case, we see all new admits within 7 days, and it's depending on their clinical need. Sometimes, you know, if they've just saw somebody and they're good and they don't want to be seen for a couple of weeks, then we're okay. But usually we're getting a call from home health or something and they want somebody seen pretty quickly. So usually we that's our goal, is to see somebody within 7 days. I can say I know Dispatch Health usually sees them within 24 hours, if not same day.
Yeah, we're primarily same day, depending on the day and the time, and the time of year. Like when we had our COVID spikes, we have had longer wait times, probably 4 to 6 hours. But right now, coming out of Omicron, we've been 1 to 3 hours, mainly to be able to go out and see people. So yeah, I just want to reiterate, we are same day service. People can call, and we get this somewhat frequently, which kind of blows my mind a little bit, but they'll call and say, okay, they'll go through the whole onboarding. They'll say, okay, can you come out tomorrow? And so you're kind of like, well, you know, how urgent is it then? You know, we are a ER or an urgent care substitution, but we do allow, you know, people to kind of pick their times as well, if it's outside of that, you know, 1 to 3 hour window. So sometimes they say, you know, I want you to come out once I got the kids down. That's totally fine. Our operating hours are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we're open 365 days a year, including holidays. So when you think about access issues for primary care being, you know, after hours, weekends, holidays, we can definitely help augment those hours. And we do see a lot of people when they're kind of left holding the bag to say, I don't really know what to do. I don't know if I can wait or should wait. You know, give us a call and we can come out and see at that point. And, you know, Laura made a great point earlier. We sometimes we are that last line of defense. They've said no to going to the hospital for everybody else. And then we get in, and there's our providers see this a lot. You know, we escalate to the ER on recently about 10%, but since market launch, we've been around 6%, meaning once we get to the home, we will 6% of the time we're sending them to the ER. And so sometimes we get patients that flat out refuse over and over again with home health, with their primary care provider, with their family. And then we're that last line of defense oftentimes when you have that nurse practitioner doing the in-home labs and telling you your results and telling you how sick you are and that you need to go. A lot of times that'll be the push they need to then go to the ER, either via 911 or if their family can transport or something along those lines.
We have used you for that as well. So yeah, so it was, we've used you more than one time. At one time it was because we were getting nowhere, we needed some help. So anyway, so yes.
So you understand it, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, let anybody else pick up here.
We're a little
Yeah.
bit, I'm sorry.
You go ahead. You go ahead,
Okay.
sir.
We're a little bit of a different model, just because we see people regardless of their insurance status. So they don't need, you know, so we see people, you know, if they have Medicare, great. I am opted out of Medicare yet. I can still order and provide for them. But, you know, I have a lot of patients that are, so they don't qualify in the senior area because they're not quite 65 yet, but a lot of them are between 50 and 65. They still got stuff going on. So, you know, I'll have some of those that have, you know, a lot of issues. They see a lot of specialists. And so one of the things we do is I coordinate a lot of their care. So, you know, I had one come to me the other day that was like, you know, we sent her to a specialist and she's like, I think you've spoiled me because you spend so much time. I have no idea what they said in the 5 minutes they were with me. So I was able to call, get some more information and get the note and get, you know, and kind of go over everything with her. And so, that's something that kind of a little bit outside of the senior niche, we do that. And I do it for seniors as well. But we bill outside of that Medicare. In response to your question, as far as like how soon it can get in for my members, the reason I do the membership model is because I can keep my panel small. So my panel will cap out at about 500 patients. And as opposed to my former colleagues in big box medicine, their panels were like 3,000 people. And so that you just can't give that personalized care and keep your schedule open when you have that many people on your panel. So my members generally can contact me same day. Sometimes we'll get a, hey, do I need to go to urgent care text? And I'm like, no, come see me, or try this and see if that gets any better. So a lot of that can be done. And then if it's a new patient, depending on how urgent, I mean, I can get them in next day if need be. But usually when patients establish with me, I'm hoping for they're healthy at that time and just looking for more of a holistic primary care. I did want to say two things. One, I'm geeking out a little bit for Laura Schneider because I heard you speak at the CAPNI conference and you are one of the people that was instrumental in inspiring me to open my own practice. So thank you for that. And two, Cole at Oak Street Health. I used to live in Chicago. And so I love what you guys do. And I've been following you guys for a really long time, and coming from a big box medicine and, you know, doing Medicare wellness visits and not understanding Medicare, and nobody there could explain the Medicare wellness visits to me. I love that you guys are taking that opportunity to really know Medicare so people can actually use their benefits for the best of their health and really utilize what's out there than feeling like they just are lost and don't know what to do. So I just wanted to put those two little plugs out there and thoughts of mine. So, but yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you. I think
Okay,
Cole,
I'm
you're getting
gonna-
ready to.
I'm going to go now.
Okay.
I'll be quick, I promise, Jim. Thank you, Farah, for that. Yeah, we originated in Chicago. So, and then we quickly after that went to Indianapolis. But yeah, so if you're a new patient looking to establish care at Oak Street Health, we can generally get you in within 48 hours, not anything more than that. Oftentimes people will walk in and say, hey, I'd love to do a visit. I want to establish care here. My friend goes here, and we can get them in same day. It just depends on kind of the schedule, but no more than 48 hours. And then as far as once they are established patients, once they've completed that wellness review visit, the second visit where it's like a complete comprehensive physical, we create a comprehensive care plan based on the individual. That's when you become a patient. And after that, you're guaranteed a same day or next day visit. If you call and you're sick and you need to come in, or you call and you have an issue, we call those problem visits, and those get addressed within same day or next day. So this has been super educational for me as well. I think you guys, I agree that I think that there's a lot of ways that we can all work together, and I see a lot of different referrals that could possibly happen based on, hey, I can't help this person, but you will be able to, because we run across people who need home care every day. I'd love to come in for a visit, Cole, but I'm homebound now. So, there's that. Or, I'm not on Medicare yet. I'm, you know what I mean? I saw you at that event, but I'm not on Medicare, far out, or obviously emergency stuff with Samuel. So wonderful stuff. And I really appreciate it.
Excellent.
Mine is a little bit easier. My services are virtual, and so usually people, calendar is wide open. So usually people can schedule the same day for their initial consultation, and then any follow-ups is going to be based on their schedule. And so again, it's to make it as easy as possible, because if they've taken the step to make the call, then I want to make sure we keep them engaged and not have a big gap between following up and seeing them. And so schedules are open in the morning and evening, and then there are some weekend Saturday hours available too for those people, caregivers, or individuals who kind of work during the week and just not able to get away. And then weekends can be a little bit easier for people, are more flexible, and so those hours are available.
Stacy?
I'm just listening to all of this and thinking about different people that are out towards McCordsville or can use that urgent care at home. I know people that do go to Oak Street and have referred people there before. And I had no idea there was a clinic where you're at in order for Farah to be able to see people like that. And we get to spend time with our patients also, whatever we need to do. And they're always understanding if the doctor calls them on the road and says, hey, I'm taking a little bit longer here. I'll be there at this time. But there's so many services out there that I didn't know were available. So I really appreciate the invitation to meet everyone.
Well, thank you. How long does it take to get into you if somebody needs to get new services there?
Our goal is 72 hours. Sometimes the patients want to be seen and they'll say, no, I'll wait until next week.
Well, thank you so much. I can't believe that it's been this time already. It always, Leslie's laughing at me. This is the way it always is, and what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to do a screen share because I want to show you upcoming events. By the way, Life's Copilot, just as a resource, you can come here. There's blogs, there's terminology. So if you get someplace and they're talking to you about what an ALD is, you can find out what that means. We've got a video library is where this video will be in the next day or so. And then we have the events. Today's event, the next one coming up is going to be on mental health. And I've got a phenomenal panel for that on May 12th. And it's at noon. And then we have one on hearing and speech on May 24th, one on hospice. So we have, a lot of different things coming up here. So we're very excited about that. So you can always go there and learn more about that. So again, thank you all. This was a phenomenal panel. I am looking forward to sitting here and cutting it up into little pieces and sending it out too. So, because I always figure it's probably easier to get people to watch 3 to 5 minutes than it is to watch a whole hour. But then I put the whole hour attached to it. So once you guys get them hooked, they can, we can get them in there for the whole thing. So anybody have anything you want to say before we call it a day?
Just want to say thank you, Jim. Thanks for the invitation. And it's nice to learn a little bit more about, as Stacy said, a lot of resources that I didn't know existed or I'm learning about. So we're all here just trying to help one another and augment what we provide with, what you all are able to provide. And ultimately, it's for the benefit of the patient at the end of the day. So I think we all have similar missions where we're just trying to change healthcare in our own little realms. So thank you guys for all you do.
Thank you all for being here. I'll send each one
Thank
of you a copy of this video as well. Use it as you like, so
Great.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
y'all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.